And today is an exciting lesson because today is what we learn all about stagecraft. So that means typically you'd see speakers come in, and this is an advanced concept, but I want to discuss it right now because I got feedback that we are not covering. There are three parts. I was not covering delivery. I was just focusing on content. So today we'll discuss all about the stage. We'll discuss stage theory in general, what the stage looks for an audience, and we'll also understand the theory behind the positions of different parts of the stage. So when you present or craft your speech, as you move and become proficient speakers, you start crafting the delivery as well. Sometimes people ask, when you came near me and spoke these words, it really touched my heart. So where we plan the conflict, we can, once we understand the stage, we can then understand where we open our speech, where we close our speech, where to shake hands, when to move with purpose, and what part, and how to construct holograms. Or, in fact, as we move with advanced speaking, we focus and we start building characters, and you focus on keeping a character somewhere. So we'll understand the concept of holograms. So a lot of stage theory. Before we move on, I just want to ask you, what is your understanding of the stage? So when we tell about the stage, when a speaker is presenting, when I tell a stage, do you understand what the stage is?
Yeah, to a certain extent, what I mean, the place where you stand making your visibility or your presence to everybody. That's what I feel.
Okay. Yeah,
Your presence is felt. Yeah.
that's correct. I want to add more as well.
Mhm.
Patrick, what do you think, from your perspective, what a stage is?
Um, well, the stage is your time to um, reveal the message that you have planned to
Mm.
reveal. And so this is generally speaking, but personally for me, as you know, the stage is yeah, is frightening for me. But the stage is where you get the chance to speak to the audience and pass
Yeah,
on a message
yeah,
that you've prepared. Yeah.
yeah. Good point. So,
Yeah.
and Shweta, from your perspective, so everything is correct. I'm just trying to understand so then we are in the same page when I discuss stage because I'll open up a
Yeah.
few more points. From your perspective, Shweta, when they tell a stage, you are presenting from a stage, what comes to your mind? Like what is a stage?
So I when I think of stage, I think of a center point where everybody focuses on,
Yes.
and the point where the person present on that point has control over the audience, and they own that particular place while they are speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I think a very vital point is where the audience focuses. Quite important. So all of you are correct. I just want to add one more definition. So when we talk about stage, stage is the area where a speaker presents, the total area. So it can start at one place, like I am here at the center, and as I move to this stage, so say for on screen, if you see, this is the this is one point, and as I move across, this is the other point. So in an online world, our stage is quite limited. But when you give a speech in a room, your stage is massive, right? You like, for example, at a club, the stage is massive. So that means you get to use much more real estate when you present. And when we move and give when we have the something space. We're discussing space here. If you have more space, you have more power to influence the audience. So that means think an online video like how we are discussing versus a person, a Toastmaster speaking in front of a group, a small room. And as you start thinking the stage, like Etihad Stadium or Marvel Stadium, that's a huge stage.
Right.
All the eyes are focusing on the camera, they're focusing on you. So your power magnifies with the stage. So, hence, it is quite essential to understand the concept of the stage. Okay, so we discussed where the audience focuses on. We discussed where we reveal our messages. That's a valid point. And we also discussed stages, the space. But if you ask me, and I'll start sharing my screen in a moment. Hmm. And you can see my screen and me.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so we're discussing stage theory, and when we discuss stage, that means yes, the audience is focusing on. At the same time, you might have different characters on the stage. So just think about theater. If you watch a play, an opera, there's so many people, so many characters in a play. Just think about your speech is also an act that you do. It has a beginning, that's your introduction, and it has a close, that's an ending. And there are various powers that signifies various meanings. Say, for example, the most powerful position in stage is the center point. So that means if you want to relay words of power, start there. Now, when we add time to it, the center point also relates the start or the present. So um, we are discussing the center point. Now, center means in front. So now stage, if I draw what do we call? If I draw a shape, let's try this shape. One moment, put it here so it's easier. When I draw, I'm not able to draw. Let's see here. Okay, so forget it. So when we look at the stage, I'll just portray to the. I'll just change my to my phone. The starting point is when you are closest to the audience. That is where you start. That is the present as well. Now that is known as the starting point. And if I take two steps back, that is where typically if you are into theater, you will see, say, the con concept of Julius Caesar and all these plays. The playwright ensures that there's some death or the villain actually dies at the end here. So when we want to project weakness in our messages, sometimes we need to project weakness. Like a character feels weak, we
Mm.
take two steps back and present there. So that means a volume, a voice is little bit lower, plus you are a bit farther from the center point. So that is a weak position. So yes, you can utilize for developing characters, like you want to put in a character who is feeling weak. For example, the hero feels weak. You can take just one step back, and as you continue with your story, you deliberately plan it, and then slowly, as he gains strength, you move him forward. Now, take one step forward. That is where you can add emphasis. So just take one step forward and move back, move, and you put in. Now, typically, if you have seen speakers, good speakers, they will deliberately, in fact, it becomes unconscious, plan their movement on stage. Now, as if you start watching speakers in general, some people start moving in, they behave like lion, move left, right, and left, right, and sometimes they do a bit of dance as well. As you start speaking, they will go left, they'll go right, left, right. You'll see that it's a dance on the stage. But when you, and sometimes you've seen, and I have given some comments, some people start moving in and into the audience and go back and go around and come back in, speak, and then go back. They keep moving. So when we do all those actions, it actually lowers the power of the stage. You don't utilize the stage. There's nothing wrong with it. If you have a character running, definitely do it. But if you want to put emphasis, we move with purpose and we plant each area of a stage. So we discussed the starting point. And Joanne, I'm recording this session if it's okay with you. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming. So we discussed the starting point. That's the center point is where we shake the hands with the Toastmaster. We open it and we hold on to that position because that's the position of power. And this is the place where you also finish your speech. So you don't go into one corner and finish because the other places are not that strong of the stage. The center position is the strongest. Now look into the Roman amphitheater. If you have seen any amphitheater, you see that the speaker stands at one place and then the entire people are standing. It's like a semicircle. So then you can project your voice. But then you stand at one place. You can make eye contact, but you stand. We then see, I'll move back to my desk. So we discussed stage theory, stage position. So what are the other positions on the stage? Now, there's a concept of time. A stage, now, if you, most people consider time starting from your left and goes to your right. When I show this hand, which hand do you see, a right or your left?
Uh, I assume it is right.
Don't assume. What do you see is my question.
Yeah, it is right hand. That's what I see. It's right hand.
You see the
Well,
right. And
Left.
this is your right side because actually my camera is mirroring. That's the reason I want to give this in person. This is right, right? What is this to you? This is your right or my right?
That is your right, is what I'm saying.
Yes. What is this to you?
My
Left.
left.
Exactly. So when we give, and this is where we come to the concept of mirror. As speakers, we understand that my right is the audience's left, and my left is the audience's right. Now, why it is so important to understand this point? You have been to the gym group classes, right? When you see, like I used to go to Les Mills classes and you do body balance and aerobics and all, the instructor will tell, raise your right hand, but he will raise his left hand and the audience will mirror this, the hand. That means raise your right hand. I will do like this. The audience will, because we are looking at a mirror. Just think about that. They will raise that particular hand, whichever you show, because they don't have the concept of, the audience doesn't have a concept of left and right. They just see you, and whatever you lift, they will lift. Now, when we give a speech, and this is why it is important, when you give a speech, your first point, so you give your introduction at the center. The first point that you give, you should take one step to your right and give your first point. So you're creating that point. That way you're also creating a timeline. Like the other day, Patrick created a timeline from birth to where you are. So you can go there and reveal your first point and your story and just stay there. And as you transition, you can then come to the center. And as you finish a third point, you give it to to um, to your left. You finish to your left. So as speakers, we are naturally going from left to right. Like that's how we write. But when we deliver, it's actually right to left. That's what I want to mention. Because we are looking at timeline. So beginning, there's a beginning body, and then there's a future. Future means if you're talking something about the future, move to the extreme, to your extreme left, if it makes sense. So that means if the audience is right. So you're finishing in a future. Now, we discussed concept of mirror, and always try not to use left or right in front of an audience. You'll get confused. You will confuse the audience. Say, raise your left hand if you are doing this. Just tell, raise your hand like this and show your hand. And they will put that hand up. If you give that hand, then they will lift it. And it's a vital thing when you engage the audience using your body. That way, you can then arm the stage with various powers. We then move to discuss stage and timeline. Now, you'll get a feedback, move with purpose. How do you move with purpose? When you give a speech, and first of all, why should I move at all? I can give a speech, but sometimes to create dynamism, we move from let's move. We move from one point to the other. So say, for example, I'm giving a speech about stagecraft, and I want to move to a point where I can give about moving with purpose. So stagecraft, moving with purpose. And if I want to go back to stagecraft, I take one step back and present stagecraft here. But and this is my point where I'm moving with purpose. We and it's actually a skill as you start developing, as you write in your speech. It would happen in say fourth or fifth speeches. That's the reason I want you to record your speeches so then you can watch how your body is behaving. Because whatever consciousness we have, we cannot move with I'd say we cannot consciously move. We sometimes, in a speech, you start moving unconsciously. So that's the reason when we practice and we start moving, we make it an unconscious behavior. We move. It's like driving. You don't. You just need to go left. That means That means left. Automatically, you will put the indicator in. You don't think, okay, now I have to put the lever down and then wait for 5 seconds and get the indicator. You just do it. The same thing with moving with purpose. When you deliver and you start moving with purpose, that means if you have a different point and if your story demands, then you move. If the story does not demand, absolutely doesn't move. Don't move. Sometimes I bring my grandma in my stories. So then to show that I actually have to get into the character of grandma. And I don't have to speak that voice, but I just change my body language a little bit, like older woman, and I start moving a little bit as I speak. So the audience then gets, okay, now this is the grandma's character. They really get that power. So we discussed, and once you get in power, you can then craft as we start moving. You create holograms for your stories within the stage. So that means, and remember in the first section, first speech we spoke about, did we speak the mental, the Roman rooms method, how to remember the points? Now, when you look into the characters, you can plant your character across the stage. You can imagine your characters in flesh and blood in your stage. And once you go there, you just look at people and you just narrate. So that's your public speaking. Then finally, I think, what do I do with the lectern? I had that question. What do we do with the lectern? Where to start the speech? You start with this. You start at the center, and you finish at the center. You don't walk and to the Toastmaster or to somebody when you are starting and finishing. You walk in, Toastmaster hands you there, and you still stay at the center. Let people come to you, and then you hand over the power to them. When we move around the stage too often, it just think about the camera. Just think about somebody watching a movie like which has lots of action scenes. The camera keeps moving. Then it becomes so tiring for the audience to move the gazes around. So we started and we finish at the same place. Now, what do we do with lectern? In the initial speeches, you'd have the lectern, you'd be using it for your notes. And if it's an informative speech, and if you have lots of notes, have it, but do not keep it right at the center. Now, when you keep a lectern at the center, means it creates an impression we are hiding behind the lectern. It hides most of your body, and it just have the upper torso presenting it. So what I would recommend is move the lectern to your left or to your right. Just move it at one place and then let your full body be revealed as you speak. If you want to go through notes, take a small peek and then you present. Otherwise, it would be just typically the academic professor or academic, like how they will just look and just make a brief eye contact and keep reading it. As you start progressing and become good, effective speakers, we move the lectern away and we potentially put ourselves out. And that is it. That is all I had about stagecraft. It was a short session. But do you have any questions about what we discussed?
I know, no question, just a comment. Acting while you're delivering content, placing yourself strategically around the stage is, as you mentioned, it's as you become a more efficient communicator, because it becomes quite a lot of things that you have to remember doing. And also, there's a chance that at the start, as a beginner, you might communicate something, but your body language doesn't align with what
Sure,
you're saying, and then that becomes a little bit fake, and it gets picked up.
true.
I've seen that happen sometimes as well, where people are coming up with some particular body language and it doesn't gel with what's
Yeah.
being said.
And that is where I want to be very clear. We are
Yeah.
not practicing body language. I have never
Yeah.
asked you to change your body language. Your body follows your emotion. That's the
Okay.
reason we focus on the emotion bit. If I talk about grandma, I believe I am grandma.
Okay.
I'm in that character. I
Yeah.
feel what she feels. And once you feel your character, so why do you think all good actors are make us so emotional? Because they feel it inside. And if they feel it, we feel it. That's the reason some of the best action or actors don't rehearse, they just appear quite natural. And so it looks natural. So, what we are discussing here is just moving your story to that part of the stage to have maximum impact on the audience. Just imagine at one place you are not moving, you put in story number one there, story number two there, story number three there.
Yeah.
Then, if you want to go back, and so this in public speaking, we call them as a callback. In comedy, also, we do a callback. So, say I start my one story here about my grandma, and I started progressing my speech. And if I want to get grandma in my story, again refer to grandma, I am immediately come here, and audience exactly knows that there's grandma there. And you just have to use one word and you are part of that story. So what we call it as holograms. You create holograms of your characters on stage, and the audience subconsciously connects with you there.
Sure.
Yeah, did that make sense, Patrick?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it did.
And
Thanks.
again, we are not rehearsing body language. Never. I would never recommend you. I want you to be natural. When you speak with your body follows your emotion. What I want you to do is it is as Jim Rohn said, uh, emotional intelligence is the emotional regulation of how emotionally you can regulate when you present. So great speakers. So that means say I want to display anger, for example, the emotion of anger. Okay, let's take a positive emotion, happiness. So as it can range from a smile, it can to a belly laughter, like somebody rolling on the floor, laughing. So so that's the range. And when we put in a story, as you start progressing, you will also mark what we call it as an emotional curve. What intensity of emotion should I put in there? So you start becoming like actors, and end of the day, you think your stage, your speech is a play, and you're delivering a big monologue.
Another question,
Yeah.
question or comment. I have seen our Toastmasters commenting on where do you stand, just owning that place, and there are too much movements. So I kind of like sometimes I felt contradiction. Okay, do we have to move further or do we have to move stay same
Okay.
on the same place?
That's a very good observation, Sujata. Let me tell you when somebody feels it's too much movement. So, for example, I if you move frequently without your story supporting that movement, then it becomes too much movement there. So that means as an audience, it feels disconnected. And so to answer your question, first of all, you have to define, draw an imaginary line. Where is my stage boundary? What is allowed and what is not allowed? Sometimes moving into an audience and speaking might be considered as intrusive to some audience. Not me, but some audience feels, oh, it's too big of a personality, it's too much power coming in together. That's the reason we put in a boundary, like we have a horseshoe shape. And what I would say is visually, uh, your your stage starts from the speaker speaking sitting on to the audience person sitting on the right hand side, to the audience to the member who's sitting on the left hand side. So these are the 2 points, end points, I would say. You start there, you finish there. And how, and as I said, if your story demands, you can move in. And if your story demands, you can move out. Depends on how, sometimes, okay, I'll tell you, when should you move in? And people do it. If you move in, you are telling something very intimate about a story, which is very highly emotional. And you are speaking in a low volume. Say, for example, somebody losing a job or somebody losing somebody, and you put in that story in. So then you lower volume and then you narrate it. So then you have better eye contact with people. Now, when we move too far, say for example, when I look at somebody here, my the people who are sitting other side are looking at my head. So that means I, as speaker, lose eye contact with them. The goal of a public speaker is always ensuring they are having maximum eye contact with maximum people. So that doesn't mean I will not look at certain people. I will look at them, but I will ensure that my back of the head doesn't face them. Does it make sense, Sujata? Yeah. So, and again, it's subjective. Feedback is subjective. That is the reason I always ask, record yourself, watch your videos, then corroborate that feedback. Did it make sense? If it does not make sense, just discard the feedback. If you are happy with your movement, or we bring that video here, we discuss about moving on stage. We then discuss over here. And if you feel connected, take it. If you don't feel connected with that feedback, just discard it. Feedback of that you get of Toastmaster is subjective to that person. Does it make sense, Sujata? Yeah. All good. Any other questions? Ask me anything. I'll actually pause recording. Yeah.
Do you have anything else to talk about, Ansuman? Or if there's no question, you will end the
We will
meeting?
wrap up. I was hoping we have a speech. I'll just stop recording. Yeah.